This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by Statefarm Insurance.
Well, temperatures are still swinging a bit, but when they really drop, will you be prepared? Do you know how to protect your family from things like frostbite?
Frostbite. Before we get into this next story, just want to let you know some of the pictures are a little bit graphic, but it's important that you see them because they tell an important story. It's a story of survival during the winter. One woman's life changed forever after being stranded in her car overnight. As a matter of fact, doctors say she shouldn't even be alive. One of the worst cases they have ever seen. But she is a survivor, and her life has changed in some pretty major ways.
I figured somebody eventually stopped, maybe a cop or something.
It was supposed to be a short drive to a friend's house. It was late, March 1st of last year. The temperature, nearly 20 degrees below zero. Wind chills, 40 below zero. The worst time for Joyce Kazitka's car to break down.
It was dead. Well, the only thing I could do was get out and try to stop people.
All alone, without a cell phone or warm clothes.
Screaming, stop please, Nobody stopped.
A grueling 14 hours would go by. Plenty of time for Joyce to experience deep stages of frostbite.
My hands and my feet got so cold that I got in the car to try to warm my feet up. And that's the last thing I remember.
Joyce would eventually fall asleep. It wasn't until a semi-driver noticed her and called 911. Highway Patrol would say later she was barely alive, about frozen to death. Joyce would be rushed to a nearby hospital where she spent nearly 2 weeks in a coma.
I woke up to my legs being gone.
Her legs couldn't be saved. Neither could her hands.
I didn't realize frostbite could be that bad. Okay, here we go.
Months later, Joyce is learning to walk again.
It's going to be hard for the rest of my life.
There. Perfect.
It's going to struggle, but
Now keep your head up.
I just have to try to
Push with those elbows.
be better.
She's working hard. I mean, it's pretty impressive the things she's accomplished, obviously, at this point already.
All right.
It's kind of funny, but I'd like to learn to ride a motorcycle.
Just pick it up and we'll set it up on here.
And that's what I told my daughters. It sounds kind of funny, but that's one of the things I would like to do.
I mean, there would be a lot of things that would have to happen before that could occur, but I've learned in this field I'd never say anything's impossible.
Out by myself, independent.
Hoping to someday be alone on the road, the very thing that got her here.
It's just a lot of work, but it don't look like it. But it
is.
It takes a lot out of me. I get really tired, but I want to fight it.
Nothing's impossible, but how about trying to keep yourself from getting there in the first place? Now, there's no particular temperature at which frostbite can occur, but here's some information to keep in mind. It's all about the temperature to wind chill ratio. Now, according to the National Weather Service, if it's 40 degrees outside and the wind's at 10 miles an hour, it can take only 30 minutes for frostbite to set in. Get this, when those temperatures go even lower and the winds go higher, it can actually take as little as 5 minutes. Never even think about these
Even
things.
here on Delmarva.
Even here on Delmarva.
Yeah.
And it's not just for me and you, it goes for our pets as well. As a matter of fact, animal control officers are on a mission to get cold pets inside.
And although some pets, mine included, seem to enjoy the winter conditions, owners have to be extremely careful. In the same way that you and I bundle up when it's cold outside, pet experts say it's not a bad idea to give your animal some extra protection. And some dogs can even use protection for their paws when it's really cold.
She's not liking it. I know, we need to put her little boots on.
Aspen's name may be suited for cold weather, but regardless of her name, she still needs protection from the cold.
We got some booties for the little dog, Aspen. We're gonna go play out in the snow for a little bit and wanted to make sure her feet were taken care of as well.
But are coats and boots necessary for your pets?
I think if you're going on prolonged walks, it might be a good idea to have boots and things like that.
Veterinarian Casey Carter says small dogs like Aspen tend to get colder faster.
They have smaller surface area, so they're going to get sort of chilled to the bone a little bit easier. But that said, large dogs can get cold also.
Any size dog left out in the cold can also mean a hefty fine for its owner.
The maximum penalty for each violation is $999.
Animal control says dogs left outside without the proper shelter can have serious problems.
Hypothermia, you can get frostbite on a dog within hours around the nose, the snout, the pads of the feet are very susceptible to those things.
Playing outside isn't totally off limits, but listen to your pet when it comes to going back inside.
Let your dog tell you, read their language and let them tell you.
And it's not just dogs. Outdoor cats can also find themselves in trouble when they look for warm places to hide, like under the hood of a car. And if you park outside, it's a good idea to bang on the hood in the morning just to make sure they get a chance to get out before you start up. Well, once you do start up, there are plenty of things to help you stay safe in the car this winter. Jimmy, you're going to give us more information on that.
Lisa, that's right. And as a matter of fact, joining us today to tell us exactly what we need in our cars this winter is Gamey Elliott, State Farm Insurance Agent in Salisbury. Thank you so much. I want to share with you real quick something that Gamey shared with us. There are a lot of things that we should keep in our trunk. Here's the thing. A lot of people seem to forget about the important stuff, but they carry things like this. The top 10 pirate hats, pink flamingos, 400 pounds of coffee, 100 VCRs. How about a suit of armor? I've got one. An astronaut suit, a unicycle, a shark, 500 lays, 60 watermelons. Really?
We surveyed about 3,000 random Americans, and these are some of the items that they came up with. So.
I can't even imagine running into that on the road. Okay, now, but in all seriousness, there really are things that we need to make sure are in our trunks just in case of an emergency, and you brought a bunch of them to talk to us about. Let me start over here. You got what is first aid kit?
First of all, you should have a first aid kit in the car. You never know what might happen, so that's a good item to have. Other items that you should make sure that you have are you've got here some jumper cables.
Right, got my
make
jumper
sure
cables.
that you've got that.
Just in case that battery goes
Just
dead.
in case the battery goes dead,
'Cause I'm always
especially in the
asking.
winter time. Also, a hazard cone or a hazard triangle. You should have something to signal distress in your car.
This is something I can never have too many of.
Yes, the flashlight. That one looks like you could use it as a weapon, but that's a flashlight.
A little bit of anything.
Also, I think over here you've got some non-perishable food items. Also, remember that you need to replenish those every 6 months. You were joking earlier that they might disappear, so
would never last.
make sure that you have plenty of non-perishable food items.
What have you got here?
That is road salt, so you can get traction when you're trying to get out of the snow. Also, a lot of people use kitty litter, so that's another thing that you can use.
Now this makes sense to me.
A blanket. A blanket is a really good thing to have in a car. You never know how long you're going to be out there, so always keep a blanket. Extra clothing, those types of items are good to have.
And if you're going to have to bundle up in your blanket, that's a good sign to have in the window,
Yeah,
isn't
this
it?
is a great sign to have. Call police or some type of distress signal. You want to make sure that people know that you need help and you're not just stopped by the road. As well as another nice item to have is a tarp, because you might be kneeling or have to sit in the snow and to change a tire, those types of things.
I'll be honest, I was wondering why you would need that.
Yeah,
And then, one of the most important things.
The most important thing is your cell phone. Make sure that you have that and a charger. It's fully charged and ready to go, because you never know how long you're going to be out there.
Now, you've got like a dozen or more things here, but there's one more thing that you said to make sure you don't forget about.
Okay, the spare tire.
Right.
Make sure that you have a spare tire that's fully functional. And not only that, make sure that you check the inflation on it at least twice a year. Just make sure that it's ready to go.
Doesn't do you any good if it's flat.
Doesn't do any good if it's flat.
What about the gas tank? What should we do with
The
that?
gas tank, you should have at least half full when bad weather conditions, because you never know how long you're going to be out there and need to run the engine.
Right, so go ahead and top it off, and the extra weight for the traction, that's not
Right,
gonna hurt
right.
either. All right, so we get into an emergency, we have a problem, let's say it's the winter conditions. Stay in the car, get out of the car.
Well, what we really recommend that you do is, when there are hazardous road conditions, if you need to pull off on the side of the highway, make sure that you turn on your hazard lights. Use a road flare reflectors to make sure that somebody sees you and knows that you need help, and also remain in the vehicle. Don't leave the vehicle. It's much safer for you to stay with the vehicle.
Stay in the car. Okay, so I did my good thing. I brought my blanket while I'm in the car. Is there something else I can do to try to keep warm in the car?
Well, a lot of times what you can do is you can run the engine, just to make sure you can run that 10 minutes every hour, not to use all of your gas up, but just for 10 minutes. Open a downwind window so that you make sure that you have good ventilation. And if there's any snow around your exhaust pipe, make sure that you clear that, because you don't want carbon monoxide poisoning.
Yeah.
So you want to watch out for things like that.
This is not overreaction.
No, it's not. We see people that get in trouble all of the time. I know you ran the segment that basically says that, you know, all kinds of things can happen, even here in Salisbury and the surrounding Delmarva area.
Be a good scout, be prepared. Gamey Ellie, thank you
Yes.
so much for coming in today.
Thanks for
Wonderful
having
having you. I got to make sure I got all this stuff in my car. Now, if you'd like to learn more from State Farm Insurance on how to stay safe while driving this winter, all you have to do is visit our website at WBOC.com and click on our picture at the top of the page.